We're so excited that you are here with us today. I am so excited and honored to be joined by the amazing Olivia Seline, who is an online sex coach. Like, I always talk to you guys about like the riches are in the niches. Well, this is a very interesting niche, and we're going to talk a little bit about what this looks like today. But just to give you a little background, she's a feminine embodiment and sex coach for women, and she helps women activate their feminine energy for a vibrant, intimate relationship, a sexy, steamy sex life, and effortless magnetism. And for a lot of you ladies who are entrepreneurs, this is going to be a good one for you today, because a lot of us entrepreneurs tend to live in the hustle, tend to live in a very masculine energy. So I'm excited to really speak to this, and it's going to be an interesting conversation. So thank you for being here.
Crazy. Thank you for having me. It's going to be crazy, and I feel like it's fun because you and I haven't talked in forever, and you helped me get started as this little budding baby entrepreneur way back when. It's crazy.
Oh, well, I mean, you were already crushing it. So actually, let's even go back to there, because when we first met, you had already had quite a bit of success in network marketing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Network marketer back in 2014. August of 2014 was my first picture of like with my water. Here I am.
I like that you went back and found the date. Okay. So you started in network marketing. Mm-hmm. Fill us in, like, how did you get to where you are today? Because it's been quite a windy journey. And I think this is such a powerful story to share, because so many listeners of the show have this fear around transitioning. Is my audience going to get confused? What will they think? I don't want to leave people behind. But you have truly fully stepped into your power in what you're doing right now. And it's so beautiful to see. And so I really want them to hear how it's not always, or it's almost never linear.
It's not. If only it was. Life would be so easy, and we'd all have all the money and all the things, and everything would be perfect, and life as we know it would be so different. But that's just it. I consider myself like having a PhD in change and transition. I mean, Joe's in the military, so we move every single 2 years. We just like uproot, and he just lets me know, and we're like, okay, where are we going? Here we go. And he's gone all the time, and he's back, and his schedule changes, and it's all over the place. And as an entrepreneur, same thing for me. I mean, put military and entrepreneur together, just a total crazy game and a crazy roller coaster of a life. But I started in the network marketing space, and I wasn't the entrepreneur that was like, one day I'm going to own my own business and I'm going to like do all of this by myself. I was a hairstylist, and I loved what I did. And I did hair for years. I was a salon manager. I had moved up I am a really good employee. I always pride myself on that. Like, you get to-do list, I get that shit done. I showed up. I overworked. I always had bonuses and raises and promotions, and it was wonderful. And then I got married, and his job and his purpose kind of took precedence with the military. You go where they tell you to go. So I started in the network marketing space just from a sense of I want something for myself. I want something of my own purpose, my own identity. Even though I love my husband and I love being his wife and supporting him, I wanted something that was my own that I could pick up and kind of take with me. And so that's how it all got started. I think many of us these days, I mean, you can sniff a previous Beachbody coach, from a mile away. You can sniff them out. We're a certain breed, but it's a beautiful way to get started in the online space. And so I started in that area, did that until I went through WBA, and then had that weird feeling that many of us did of, oh my God, there's more than this. This is crazy. And that's how I met Shannon. Love her dearly. My best friend now. We met in WBA, and we just started transitioning. And so I went into life coaching from there, fell in love with like you, and you had asked me so many beautiful questions of, if you love the personal development and you love the mindset and the energy and all of that, why aren't you doing that? And I was like, oh my God, no one's ever asked me that. Like, you gave me permission to go out and do my own thing. And so transitioned from there into business coaching, because then everyone was like, how did you start a business? How did you make money? How are you successful? And I was like, okay, natural progression. But the sex came into it all. I never would have thought, right? Like, I'm a pastor's kid, like grew up as a pastor's kid, like this little angel, right? Everyone thinks of me as so sweet and innocent. And I went into the sex coaching realm because for me, I saw that was the missing piece, where I had all these clients, and myself included. I had made all the money I ever wanted to make. I was like, oh my gosh, I've made it right now. I can finally be happy. I had put my relationship and my sex life on the back burner. I had all of this shame around my body. I hated my body. I had convinced myself I didn't need sex. I didn't like sex. It's fine. It's whatever. It's just for him. And I pushed it all to the back burner thinking, well, once I get here in my business, then I'll give the attention to my relationship and my sex life. And it actually wasn't the case, because money's just an amplifier.
Yeah.
So the relationship was kind of, things were kind of rocky. Luckily my husband is a saint, and there was never talk of him leaving or us breaking up, but it was kind of that come to Jesus moment of him being like, we can't do this back and forth game forever of like, where do I fit? Where is my purpose in this? How is this ours? Like, I want my wife back, and it's amazing that you're strong and you're independent and you're powerful and you're successful. And I'm so proud of you. But what about me a little bit? Like, men want to be needed, right? Just as much as we do. And so when I saw that this was a missing link, not only very tangibly in that realm with relationship sex, and that's a lot of what women are missing, I truly believe, but also then in the sense of things started to feel hard and things started to feel forced, and like I had to constantly compete with myself and outwork myself. And it was just work harder, talk to more people, do more, do more, do more. And I had a breaking point of burnout of like, I can't continue this. And then I started to play in the realm of the feminine energy. And that's why I do so much feminine embodiment work, because that feminine energy came in with the masculine and was able to soften things for me. And I opened up my receiving abilities. I opened up my magnetism, and I opened up that energy that just draws people in, where they're like, I don't know what it is about her. I can't explain it, but there's just something about her. And that's the radiance and the brilliance and the magic that we as women have. And so turning that on was able to transform everything in my life. And I was like, I have to share this with more people. So there's my novel. If you
so powerful though. But I think what's beautiful, I love this, because I know for so many of the women who listen to this show, and specifically because a lot of them are, coaches and network marketers, there is a certain vibe in certain circles of the online world. Like, there's a lot of little like coaching bubbles, but especially in the Beachbody world, there's a very heavy masculine energy around achievement.
Yep.
It's kind of set up very militant, and many other network marketing companies are as well. Yeah. And so when something is like run by men, established by men, the sales processes are outlined by men, and it's women trying to step in and execute on all of those very employee masculine energy based tasks, there tends to be a little bit of a disconnect for people. For a lot of these individuals who are, constantly checking their sales, constantly checking, their volume, their bonuses, their points, did anybody drop rank? Or even for just people who are in online coaching, oh my gosh, did that person sign up? I know so many women, they're like, oh yeah, I'm out at dinner on a romantic night with my husband, and I'm just head down under the table looking at my phone just because I don't want to miss the one sale that might save my business. And I'm like, how do you think that's impacting your relationship? Mm-hmm. And a lot of women are not taking responsibility because they're not consciously aware of how they're actually playing a role. They're only seeing it from the husband side or the partner side of, well, he just doesn't support me.
Yes. Yep.
So so you're obviously seeing this as well. And that's a lot of, what you are helping people with, but what is it that they're not acknowledging?
The women or the men?
Well, let's start with the women.
Okay. So we definitely think that it's always their fault. It's so much easier to place blame. It's the client's fault. It's the man's fault. It's the mom's fault. It's the friend's fault. It's whatever. We very rarely take the responsibility from, and I'm so speaking of myself as well. I have to be very mindful of this. I'm not perfect. Okay. Like, even I had a message from someone yesterday that tried to like bring me down and tear me apart. And I was like ready to take my hoops out, Jenny from the Block style of like, let's fucking go. Like, let's do this. If you want to go, I will go out back on the playground with you right now. But I had to realize like, this is just a reflection. Like, what is happening within me? How can I actually show up, reclaim my power, and show up here and take ownership of how I'm showing up? So when Joe would even get huffy and puffy when I would have my phone on me at date night, right? And he would knock it out of my hand, or he would like grunt under his breath. And I'd be like, oh my God, chill. I'm making money so we can buy the fucking dinner. Like, and I would snap, or it would be one more thing. Or he would get home early from work and like come in and try to be all sexy. And I was like, I got shit to do. And I'm like pushing him out of the way. And I'm like, stop. Right. And I'm like freaking out. And I just always thought it was him. And what I didn't realize was the part that I was playing in that. And I had to take ownership of, I wouldn't want to be married to me. I'm crazy right now. Like I'm a psycho. And yeah, like I have success and we were able to have nice things because of the work that I do. But what does any of it matter if I don't have someone to share it with? Yeah. Right. And whether that's a partner or friends or family or whoever you're pushing away, it's like really being mindful of, why are you actually doing all of this anyway? Like, is it for the external validation and the accolade and all of that? I mean, that's not sustainable, because there will be a month where you maybe dip a little bit, or there will be a month where you don't meet your goal, or there will be a month where things are a little shaky, but what's the foundation of which you're even building all of it? And for me, I had to go back to the work I needed to do within myself and then my relationship and my sex life, and build my business then from a space of love and from a space of overflow versus from a space of fear and scarcity and like control and all of these weird things that I was feeling before. So definitely being mindful of, where do you need to take ownership as the woman? Would you want to be in a relationship with you? Because we've all been there where he knocks the phone out of my hand when I'm on it, but then he's on his phone and I do the same thing. And then he gets mad at me. And it's this back and forth of like, well, why is it okay for you to do it, but it's not okay for me to do it? And there's that whole bicker thing. So I had to learn how to, for me, like get out of the masculine boss mode and like transition into the goddess feminine energy mode to go be a wife, and not try to be a wife and an entrepreneur at the same time. And I know that everyone talks about, it's not work-life balance and it's work-life integration. And I get that. It's not a 50-50 split, but it should be where there's times where you're not having your hand in your phone and your hand down his pants. Like there should be separate times for separate things. And that's how everyone gets the best of you.
Yes. Okay. This is really powerful for people to hear. And so what is it that the men need to acknowledge and recognize? Because earlier before we jumped on, and maybe it was a little bit of this episode already, we were talking a lot about purpose. And for a lot of women who especially step into this online coaching world, they're maybe leaving a job that they don't like, or they're a stay-at-home mom and they're stepping into reclaiming their identity, stepping into their purpose. And then you had really talked about how the man now, his purpose is changing. And again, we're not talking about, old school male-female dynamics. It's not that really. So I really invite you guys not to check out if that's what you're interpreting, because that's not what we're saying. But there's a relationship, and the relationship has certain roles, and your roles might look a little bit different, but each person still needs to get their needs met. So for the man, for the partner of the entrepreneur, when they start seeing their partner now stepping into entrepreneurship, working late hours, on their phone all of the time, what is that like for them? Or what is it that entrepreneurs are not acknowledging? Absolutely. They're saying, oh, you're not supporting me.
Yeah. Yes. And sometimes that is the case where maybe you have an unsupportive partner, and that's a whole nother conversation. But you're assuming that they're not supporting you. And men, unfortunately, don't always have the same level of emotional intelligence, or maybe they're still learning, or they're not plugged into the personal development world. They're not watching the videos and listening to the podcasts and going through all this conscious woke growth stuff that we're maybe going through. I know my husband doesn't, God bless his heart. But it's like he doesn't understand like how to necessarily communicate what he's feeling. So he's instead going to snap sometimes, or he's going to react, and I'm going to be like, oh my God, you're just not supportive. When really the man or the partner doesn't know where his place is in it. And a lot of times they have this fear. And my husband and I had this conversation years ago. He was like, it's kind of scary. You're outgrowing me. Like, I don't know where I fit. You've got these new friends, you've got the money that you need, you've got everything on your own. Like, what role do I even play here? Where do I even fit into your perfect puzzle? And I had even back in network marketing, like I retired Joe without really asking him. I kind of just did it where I'm like, you're coming home and this is how it's going to go. And we're going to run this together and it's going to be amazing because everyone else was doing it. And he came home and it was the worst fucking year of our lives. It was miserable because he was like, I don't want to be at home. And yeah, I know financially it makes sense. The military isn't necessarily rolling in abundance. But it's just the fact of like, he didn't know where he fit. He was like, now you're the head of the house. And I agree, like the old school, I'm not saying like the wife needs to be home cooking and cleaning and like the man goes to work, whatever. You can be a boss ass bitch, but your man wants to still provide in some way. And even if he is working with you in your business, he still wants to know where he fits. Like, how is he providing so that you can run the business? Are you asking his opinions? Are you bringing him into the conversation? Do you guys talk about your future and your vision and your growth together? Do you go to conferences together? Do you sit and have conversations about it? Or are you more just like in your own little world over here? And he's like knocking on the door being like, can I come in? Like, can we talk? Can we not? Are you going to bite my head off? So really, men need a purpose. They need meaning. And as the female, and I'm talking same sex, or heterosexual, but it also could be same sex relationships. There's usually a more masculine essence, more feminine essence being that are drawn together. And so for you, it's like having the conversation of what this looks like. And it's my job as the feminine to bring him in and hold space for him to have meaning and have purpose and support him in his purpose, versus I only ever expected him to support me in mine. But then he wanted to go up in rank in the military. And I was like, I want you to come home. I want the white picket fence. And he was like, well, I love you, but that's not what I want. And I had to figure out, how can I have my purpose and how can I support him in his purpose? And when I gave what I wanted to receive by showing up and supporting him, his support for me is limitless. And we're able to actually be better as a couple then in the impact we're making as a team.
Wow. That's so important. And I love how you kind of brought this back, that yes, the man he needs a purpose, and you guys need to hear that. And it's for the exact same reason that many of you guys are jumping into entrepreneurship, because you need a purpose. We all need a purpose. And that could come in so many different shapes and sizes and different ways. And so when many new entrepreneurs step into entrepreneurship, they tend to hustle their way to the first 6 figures. So I think you're really speaking to that of, that you're looking at your phone, you don't have a lot of time. You're constantly, if you're not at your computer working or out looking at your phone, you're thinking about something.
Oh my God. Yep.
And so
then you're wondering why you can't have an orgasm, and there's why.
Okay. So let's talk a little bit about this. Just like even like the physical touch, the being present with the person, and then actually being able to like even want sexual experiences. So
absolutely.
What are you seeing? What are the trends that you're seeing happening? Because I've been hearing this more and more from people in my community.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's entrepreneurs and it's not entrepreneurs. I mean, our generation is like having way less sex than any other generation.
Really?
And it's crazy. Yeah. Well, I have a lot of polarizing beliefs, but okay. So like, let me pull up a scene here. And get so there's this, like, where do I even start with this? The truth of the matter is, we're not having sex because yes, we're on our phones. We're getting like this dopamine hit every time we get like this text, and we're constantly getting the likes, and we're constantly scrolling, and we're constantly connected. And then we're in our real life relationship, and like we don't either have the energy, or we're distracted, or we're somewhere else, and so we're not there. Or there's also, I'm just going to say it. Please don't burn me at the stake, people. But like the feminist movement, I am all for women empowering women. Absolutely. Hell yes. Look at the work that I do. However, we're like a lot of us are pushing men out, and we're like, we don't need them, and burn the patriarchy to the ground, and fuck all men. If you have a penis, you've done wrong. So then it's like men are terrified to even like approach a woman or have a conversation, or am I going to say something wrong, or this is going to come off sexist, or whatever it might be. So there's this weird energetic dynamic there in our generation as millennials. So a lot of us are single, or we're in sexless relationships or whatever. And like, there's just all of this weird dynamic happening. Then you've got entrepreneurship, where all of us and our mother and brothers are entrepreneurs, and we don't have time for sex. And we somehow think once we make 6 figures, then we'll have the time, but it's not the real case. It's not. I'm sorry. Been there. It's not going to happen where it's just like the stars align, the sky's open, your bank account is like dropping money all over and you're like, I'm finally wet again. Yay. Like, let's have sex. It doesn't work that way. Money is just an amplifier of whatever's already going on.
Yeah.
So there's a lot happening. And so when it comes to going into the relationship, like, you can still be a strong, badass, independent woman, but you've got to be able to have the posture and the energy of being able to transition into, well, now I'm in this version of me, like the goddess inside of me or the queen inside of me is going to come through and be the counterpart, co-create and co-rise with my king. Like, part of the feminine energy, and this makes a lot of women's stomach turns just because of this day and age, but a lot of the feminine is also being in devotion to the masculine. Yes, in a partnership, but also within yourself. So it's like finding this balance and this harmony. It's not 50-50. It's like a pivot where, like, you might swing over here. It's a pendulum, and then you might swing over here, and you got to kind of find your balance and your happy medium. But you need to be able to know which energy is necessary in this situation. There's times where, like, Joe's gone most of the time. Right now, he's gone, he's in Georgia, and I have to be more masculine at home because I've got shit to get done. I've got to be able to show up and work and hustle and do the things. But when he comes home, I can't just keep going about the masculine. I've got to be able to dance with him and feel into his masculine energy and be able to go into my feminine and create that sexual polarity so that he has purpose, he has meaning, he has a role, I have a role, and then we're able to co-create together. And part of me being in my feminine is me being able to also be in devotion to him and his purpose, even if that sometimes means there are sacrifices. I don't want my husband to be gone 24/7, but that's what his job requires, and he loves that. And so I have to know that part of my role in being in my feminine is supporting him in his role of being in his masculine, and that's part of his purpose. And so you just have to be able to be fluid and to dance between the energies and know that your masculine is still important and your feminine is important. And you need both of them, both in relationship and in business. It's not just boss mode in business because you'll hit burnout, and not just feminine in your relationship because then eventually it'll just kind of like feel like you're not grounded. You've got to be able to dance between all of it and bring both of them, infuse both of them into your business and your relationship.
I love it. So for people who are kind of new or to this concept, or they're just like, hold on, can we clarify for you, like, how do you define masculine energy and feminine energy in the context of what you were just talking about?
Right, because they're not gender specific. So we all have masculine and feminine within us. And again, same-sex relationships, same thing. There's going to be a more masculine essence. There's going to be a more feminine. The masculine is that firm. It's that strong. It's the grounded. It is the strength. It is the one that's the logic. It's the thinking. It needs the 20-year plan. It wants to be solution-oriented. And it's like, let's fix it. And it's this leadership role, right? This very powerful, like, you can tell why boss babes, right? All of us boss babes, hashtag, are all in this day and age. Like, as millennial women, we're all in this masculine role. And for a lot of us, it's how we saw, like, for me, I wanted the love of my dad. And like Tony Robbins said, who did I have to be for my dad growing up? I had to be masculine. It was the achiever, the accolades, the get shit done, the hustler, the worker. Like, I was always doing. And so that is very masculine energy. Then you have the feminine energy, and the feminine energy is going to be the fluid. She's going to be the flow. She's going to be the magnetism. She's got this radiance, this magic, this light about her, this inspiration, the creative side of you, that sensual side of you. She slows down and she like feels into the moment, and she's in her body and she's just experiencing, she's in trust and flow and surrender. She's not like, oh, I got to go get shit done. She's more about, who am I being in all of this? And how is my energy and how is my overflow? And it's like this turn on, right? Of just like this inner light that's turned on. The feminine is wanting that love and that connection and that deeper desire, where the masculine wants the freedom and wants kind of that, being able to just kind of be whatever he wants to be and have this just freedom in every single area of life. So you can see why we've got both in all of us, because in our business, a lot of us want freedom, but then especially like between John Wineland talks about, like, between ages 35 and 45, us women in this generation, basically we get to 35, 45 and we're like, wait, but I've done everything and I have all the things that I want, but now I'm still miserable. And it's because actually you're not a masculine. We all think, oh, I'm just masculine. Maybe you are, but it's very rare. Most of us are feminine essenced. And so we actually want to be loved and connected, and we want to be in community and sisterhood, and we want to be held, and we want to be pursued. But we have this weird kind of energy about it of we want to be self-sufficient and independent. So heaven forbid I be vulnerable and I let myself be seen, or I let myself open up here, because if I open up, then I could be hurt, or I could be rejected, or I've had past trauma or past triggers that I haven't healed yet. So also like with the masculine, you can think of like the penetration, yes, sexually, but also with like the very strong assertive words and the gaze, where the feminine is going to be the receiver and she's going to open to the masculine to be able to call it in.
Interesting. And you said, something about like, when we get to a certain level of success or we hit 6 figures in our business, like there's a Tony Robbins quote, I think I might be botching it a little bit, but success without fulfillment is the greatest failure.
Yep.
And so, you're really speaking to that right now. And I love what you said before about, that a lot of entrepreneurs believe, or just anybody, like, well, once I get to this level in my business, once I get to, this rank in my company, once I make this much money in my corporate job, then I can open myself up. Then I can pull back on being the go, go, go energy, the hustler, and I can just, chill a little bit more. And unfortunately, that's not usually how it shows up for people. And then they end up becoming the bottleneck in their own business. They burn out. They're unhappy. I've experienced not a full-blown burnout, but pretty close to it, because I had that belief that hard work equaled success. And
Absolutely.
What's funny about that is if hard work equals success and hard work equals money, then why do we know so many people who are broke working 16-hour days? So by that logic, clearly, guys, hard work does not always lead to money. So you can work your life away. Like, look at a farmer. They're some of the most labor-intensive people, and they're not the wealthy CEO sitting on Wall Street.
Yep. So
I think there's a belief kind of underneath that masculine hustle. Like you said, who did you need to be for your dad? You needed to be a hard worker. I have the same thing. And I think a lot of women who are in this entrepreneur space have had similar experiences where they craved, it's not who did you love more, it's whose love did you crave more, your mom's or your dad's. And that whoever's you craved more, you tend to, like the question is, who did you need to be in order to get their love? And just sit with that for a moment and really think about that, because it's going to give you a lot of insight on why you do what you do and the beliefs that you've held onto that maybe didn't feel 100% in alignment. Kind of what Olivia is saying, that brought you in and out of a feminine masculine energy and created some contrast that didn't feel good for you.
Well, and you think about, you have the masculine and the feminine. If like, for example, when I was in my masculine all of the time and I didn't have time for the feminine, I grew up like, we don't feel feelings. We don't go into that, like work harder, hustle, be busy, do whatever you got to do. I was like, Joe and I were both masculine then, and we were like two of the same sides of a magnet where they're like resisting each other.
Two bros bumping chests.
Yeah, exactly. Versus when he was masculine and I go into my feminine, or vice versa, we're like two opposite sides of the magnets, and we have this polarity, and we actually come together and we create from that space. So yeah, if you're not experiencing like arousal and desire, and you're not having this sexual intimacy and connection with your partner, a lot of times it's like, what's your energy and what's your posture? Are you closed off and on your phone? Or are you like, stop touching me, God, like, you're bugging me, or you're on your phone again for the millionth time, or you're always answering calls. I had one client one time who literally was answering texts during sex. I kid you not, as an entrepreneur, and that's not okay, and it's not sustainable. You will hit burnout at some point, or heaven forbid, your partner's going to leave and you're going to be like, what the fuck? Like, they left. And if a man, John Wineland says it perfectly, when a man leaves 99.9% of the time, there's always can be other circumstances as well, so I'm not ruling that out, but it's the energy. They were not getting the energy of which they wanted. There was none of that like connection and that sexual polarity and that intimacy and the energy that was happening between you two. He wasn't getting it. And so he'll leave. And females very much the same way, or if we don't feel safe, or if we don't feel grounded by that masculine presence. So really taking ownership of how am I showing up to this, versus if only my partner would change, you need to take ownership. I mean, I had to do it too. I get it. It sucks and it's a hard pill to swallow, but we have to take ownership of how we're showing up and the energy and the posture of which we're bringing into the relationship.
Mm-hmm. And I think I love that you're talking about it through the lens of the energy, because communication is 93% energy.
Yep.
Like our words are just a very, very small sliver of what's actually being communicated. So you're talking about the physiology, our posture, when we're closed off. Are we really inviting even just a conversation? How are we showing up? This is so good. And I know Tony Robbins talks a lot in relation to this, because I know we already brought him up. He talks about the 6 human needs. So it's significance, uncertainty, certainty, love and connection, contribution, and growth. And so for a lot of people, when I have clients, when things are not in alignment in their business and we happen to get on a topic about their relationship being a part of it, we really like to look at, well, are you making, like, if your partner were to grade on a scale from 1 to 10, how significant you make them feel, how loved, and like, what's the love and connection on a scale from 1 to 10? So I usually have my clients go through and say, okay, where would you say he makes you feel? And then how significant do you think you make him feel? How loved do you think you make him feel? And usually that's very eye-opening for people. And I always encourage them to do that with their partner, because the majority of the time, there are some really low numbers on there. And like you were saying with Joe, you guys, he felt like you were outgrowing him. So I'm sure like growth would have been super low. And then it's like, oh, once we can like give it a box, which can sometimes be helpful, because it's like, okay, well, this is the problem we need to solve. Like, this is the area where we need to work, instead of it just being this total lack of communication. Sometimes having a little bit of that structure can be really powerful. But a lot of times, whether it's a man or a woman who's the entrepreneur, if you're staring at your phone, what are you communicating to your spouse? You're saying, this is more important than you. This is more significant. You're less significant to me. I don't think a lot of people see that layer to it. They're like, but I'm making money, but I'm helping us, but this is for our kids, but this is for our future.
Yeah, but your actions and who you're being speaks louder than the words that you're saying. And that's just it. Yeah, we all have said that. I'm doing this for us and for our future. And it's like, well, is he even going to be here by the time you create this future? It's like, I always have to, it's not fun, but reverse the roles of, how would I feel if he was doing this to me? Because it's been like that before. He's not perfect. I love him dearly, but there's times where he's on his phone, or he's got to, get up and go do something for work in the middle of something. And I'm like, you just kind of feel deserted, and you're like, I don't really know where I fit here. So yeah, the communication piece is huge. And it is, I love that you said it's 93% energy, because it's so true. And it's the crystal clear communication around, what do you need, right? What are the boundaries here? What are the expectations here? What is it that you're wanting or desiring? What does he want and desire and need? When's the last time you asked him, how can I show you? If you're not feeling this from me, what do you need to feel loved here? How can I show you how much you mean to me? How can I show you that you're significant? How can I help you feel this way? And learn things like his love language, and learn things like his erotic blueprint, and all these different things that you can do. It's like really diving into the communication piece of not just what do you think or assume that you're doing. And you're like, but wait, I love you all the time. And you're telling him, but you're not showing him physically. He might need the physical side of it. And he doesn't need the words as much as you do. So starting to be able to have these open conversations and open dialogue is also going to require you to be in your feminine, because you've got to be able to hold space for him and his emotions, versus if you're in your masculine, he's going to feel that resistance and he's not going to feel safe to be vulnerable with you. You've got to be able to have this fluidity, and it's all about your energy. Absolutely.
This is so good. And I actually had that conversation. So these were powerful questions a couple of years ago about the 5 love languages. And I remember I was just kind of like, sit down, we're having this conversation. And Michael was like, I don't really want to do this right now. And I was like, well, I don't really care. This is important. We need to have this conversation. So we're having it. Like, I'm very bossy. I'm just like, we're doing this. And he was like, fine, like with a big eye roll. But what we uncovered was, I was sitting there, I was waking up early, cooking him breakfast before he'd leave, and being like, acts of service. This is me giving you love. And he was just kind of like, oh, thanks. And I don't like waking up early in the morning. So I'm like, you're rejecting my love. Like, I'm going above and beyond for you. And that was how I wanted to receive. Like, when he does the dishes, I'm just like, oh, thank you. Like, you just made my day so much easier. Like that's what gets me excited, which is so ridiculous. But it's like, that's it, right? You need to know what your part, and for him, it was words of affirmation. So I'm trying to give him acts of service. He's not acknowledging it. I'm feeling rejected. He's not getting what he needs because at the time I was so terrible at giving words of affirmation. And for him, it's not just like, you're great. It's like really, really specific things. So he's a performer when I go see his shows, when he tap dances, I can't just be like, you did a great job. I'm like, hey, I really loved in the second bar of your improv where you did that really cool, like over the top thing. Like you absolutely nailed those sounds. And he'll be like, wow, you actually saw me. You actually, acknowledged the work that I put in, or like my creativity. So it's like being specific, I think, with the words of affirmation is so essential for somebody who needs that.
Yep.
But yeah, I'm so glad you brought this up because that was like absolutely game changing in our relationship.
Yeah. The love language.
Time to transition that and get used to using words of affirmation. Because at the time I never would even give them to myself.
Mm-hmm. Well, and that's just it. And a lot of times we give in the way that, we want to receive. And so there's plenty of times where I'm like, I just love you so much. And I'm like, eating him up of just like, I just love you. And I just am obsessed with you. And I just want to, and he's just like, okay, cool. But then if I'm not touching him, like grabbing his hand or hugging or whatever, it's like, that's what he needs. And so, but then he'll touch me all the time. And I'm like, but I want the words. And so even like, we've been married for 7.5 years. Like it's still to this day, there'll be moments where we're like, oh shit, like we're off here. And it goes back to the love language.
So within your work, how do you see this show up for people and especially for entrepreneurs? How have you seen teaching people this and helping them identify this change their business? Like,
well, that's just it, like the feminine is the receiver. So like, how well do you receive pleasure? How well do you receive compliments? How well do you receive, like if your partner tries to help you open the pickle jar, are you pushing him out of the way and being like, I can fucking open my own pickle jar. Don't tell me I'm not strong and independent. Or are you letting him like open the pickle jar for you and receive the support and receive the help? Like, how you receive one thing is how you receive anything. So it's like really opening yourself up to receiving in the bedroom. It almost is like you open up this whole next level portal of being a really good receiver. And the universe is like, oh, she's fun to give to. Let's give her more. She actually receives it. Where if someone tries to buy you dinner and you're like, oh, no, it's fine. And you push them away. I'm sorry, but I'm not going to try to buy dinner for you again. If you're a weird receiver, I don't enjoy that. Like fucking celebrate that shit and get excited because I just bought you dinner and it's fun and like, woo, gratitude. Like it goes a long way. So
you're literally cutting off the energy when you are like, no.
Yeah.
And it's like, you guys know, and I see this with a lot of my clients too. I'm like, you see how good it feels to give and you love to give and you love to give your clients breakthroughs and you love to provide for other people. Mm-hmm. Why are you not giving other people the opportunity to feel that same joy?
So true. Beautifully said. Yeah. And it's a cycle. It's a giving and receiving. Like it's how the whole world works.
Yeah.
And, some of us can't just be givers and some of us just be receivers. Like it's opening yourself up to both sides. It's very much like the masculine and the feminine. Mm-hmm. You've got to open up this giving and this receiving. And why would you rob people of that opportunity? The other piece of it is like our sexual energy is our creation energy, right? So if we're blocking ourselves from tapping into like the sexuality of us, which is we're all sexual erotic beings by nature. We come from sex. We have sexual organs. We have a clitoris that's literally only for pleasure. There's zero other purpose for it. Like why else would you have that? It's not like God fucked it up and gave everyone one of these little buttons that doesn't do anything else. It's there for pleasure. Like you are a sexual being. And so getting back in touch with your sexuality and harnessing that sexual energy, that creation energy that can create life, it can create humans. We're powerful beings, but it also creates our reality. We're constantly co-creating by the energy of which we're showing up with and the energy of which we're putting out and who we're being in all of it. And so when we ignite that sexual energy and we get that revved up and we realize the limitless potential inside of like our womb and inside of our heart and our soul and everything that's going on there, it's like it radiates and it's this turn on that goes out into the world and it draws in and magnetizes what you want, whether it's clients or whether it's money or whether it's orgasms or whether it's pleasure or whether it's whatever it might be. You're calling it all in. Like women have this magnetism to them that when we turn it on from the inside out, it's like you are able to call in what you want. Now, this doesn't mean I don't work. Obviously, I'm here doing a podcast. I show up, I do things, but who I'm being in what I'm doing is the most important part versus I just got to get more done and I got to hustle harder and I've got to talk to more people and fuck, I got to do this and I got to do this. Like nobody wants to be a part of that energy. I'm sorry, but I look at it as when you're in that desperate energy or that forced energy, it's like when you take a scoop of pre-workout in your mouth and before you can get your water, you cough and it's like, and it like puffs out and it falls to the ground. That type of energy doesn't draw people in. It's the energy where it's like the around her, where it's like, she is Kim Anami, a well-fucked woman. She is a woman. I want to be in her energy versus the people that we meet that we're like, if only she would get laid, I might like her more. And it doesn't have to be from a partner. You can friggin' have sex with yourself and you can go self-pleasure all day long, but it's like you're in connection with your body and with your energy.
Well, that's really the key right there, of being in connection with your body, being present in your body. And I know from being an actor for many years, like you could really tell on stage, especially when someone is connected with their truth, connected with their body, or when they're feeling uncomfortable, when they're not grounded. What you were just talking about too was like the whole idea of be, do, have. A lot of entrepreneurs are trying to operate from, when I have the six-figure business, then I will do the thing. I will be present with my husband. I will, have more sex, and then I will become successful. And it's actually the reverse. You need to step into who you want to be right now. So then you can go and do and have all the sex and do all those things. And then you can have the successful business, because like you're saying, that's how you actually magnetize people to you.
Right. It's so true. It's so true. And like the be, do, have thing too. It's like, what do you think the six-figure business is going to give you that you can't create now? Yeah, maybe choice. But if you're like, okay, well, I'll only be happy when I have the thing, you're seeking safety and certainty and abundance and all of this outside of you, which means you're constantly going to be grasping or chasing versus effortlessly creating from your body inside, and it radiates out. Versus like, I mean, God, yeah, I made all the money in the world and I still felt unsafe. Like more money just meant more risk, more to lose, more responsibility, fuck. And I had to figure out, how do I create safety and groundedness in my body now, so that once I create and I make more money, I actually am building it on solid ground.
I just need to take a moment, because that right there, I hope you guys heard that. That's everything. That's the whole shebang. There's so many people out there who are hitting six figures and then having that exact experience where they're like, oh my gosh, I'm going to lose it all. They think more money is going to solve my problems, but they haven't healed their wounds. And when they get more money, they go into absolute panic mode.
I did that last fall.
Yeah. How do I make more? What if it stops coming? What if I lose it all? What if I'm not good with money? Oh my gosh, I've never had to manage, a six-figure bank account before. I see this so often. Yeah.
One of my friends just told me, she's like, if I made the money you made, I would never have problems. And I was like, it's not true. I was like, I have plenty of friends who make well over six figures. Like I was making damn near $20,000 months, and I still somehow ended up of like paycheck to paycheck, or being like, oh my God, I have to create it again. And oh my God, now I have more expenses. Now I have more things. Now I got to pay more taxes. And I got things. And it's the money mindset. It's the blueprint. It's the, who are you being in all of it? It's not the perfect man or the perfect bank account or the perfect this that's going to give you the happiness and the fulfillment you're seeking. It's, how do you create it in your body now? And then you call it in by also showing up and doing the work. But who are you being in all of it?
Yeah. You also said a really powerful question. I might be paraphrasing it, but what is the six-figure business going to give you that you don't already have now? And I've asked people a version of this question. What they'll usually say is things like, well, it'll give me choice, or it'll give me freedom, or it'll give me more money. And it's like, okay, well, in what context? And when you really start to dial that down, they really have access to a lot of what they think it's going to give them. They're like, oh, it's going to give me fulfillment. Okay. And what would that look like? They're like, being able to serve clients. So you can't serve clients now. You can't serve clients even though you're not making any money yet. And they're like, oh shit, I guess I can serve clients. Okay, cool. So what else is it giving you that you don't have now? And then when you start to like really dial it in, it's like, we just need to start being that person today and recognize that all of the things that you want, you already have access to them.
And that's how you create more of it. Like, thank you, more please. You have to be in gratitude and celebration of that, of what you've already been given or already have. I mean, if you're watching this Facebook Live, you're already one of the wealthiest people in the world. You know what I mean? Like, and if you're listening to this podcast, like, yeah, you have access to that, which a lot of people don't have access to. Now, that doesn't mean you can't want more. I'm not saying that. But if you are constantly seeking more, like, when is enough enough? When are you finally going to be happy or finally be able to be in gratitude if you're constantly seeking more without being grateful for what you have? And knowing that it's all a journey and it's all a process, and there's not an end point of like, then I make it and then I'm successful, or then finally this. It's, who are you being now? Like, and it's so cliche of like, you could die tomorrow, but it's true. Like, what the fuck are you waiting for? Like, you get to decide now. Go have the $5 coffee and like bask in the abundance that is that $5 coffee. Watch this Facebook Live and be in total gratitude and celebration of this iPhone that you're holding, like whatever it might be. Like, get into that now, and then you're creating from that space, and everything else is just a blessing. And wouldn't that be a more fun way to enjoy life?
Girl, you are like preaching right now. I
Give me
love
a mic.
this.
Here we go.
Give me a mic. Let's go. Let's go. There are so many tweetable moments. So many Instagram graphics just begging to be made, begging to be shared out to the world.
Oh, I love it. That's what happens. Give me a mic. Like, take me to church. Like, let's fucking go. I love it.
This is why you and Shannon are like magic.
We have so much fun together, like too much fun.
And
give us a cocktail and like, it is a whole nother level. Here we go.
Oh my goodness. Okay. So before I know we could talk all day long. I could just keep going, but I want to respect your time. And I want people to learn a little bit more about where they can go to connect and hear more about this. Cause I know we really just like scratched the surface today.
We really did. We both got on here. We're like, I don't know where this is going to go.
Yeah.
Let's just see what happens. So yeah, there's so much more that we can definitely dive into. Part 2, part 3, part 4, part 5. You can find me at oliviaseline.com. That's kind of where all of it is. There's freebies on there. My podcast is linked there. My Instagram's Olivia Seline. My Facebook's Olivia Seline. I have a free Facebook group. You know, I do all the Jen Casey things. She taught me well. I've got all my little places on the internet. And that's where you can really get in touch with all of it. It's just, I've got one-on-one coaching. I've got groups. I've got things. Like, there's anything that you're ready for, that you're wanting to step into. I meet you where you're at. I don't go in the bedroom with you and tell you what you're doing wrong, like some people think I do.
Yeah, let's say that. You were like, I was like, before we jumped on, I was like, what's the biggest objection or misconception about what you do? And you were like, people think that I watch them get it on. And I was like, oh, interesting.
Yeah.
That's a tricky objection.
Yeah, there's
some
definitely coaches out there that do, or sex educators, and like, you know, there's somatic body workers who literally will do like genital mapping and different things like that, and that can be really cool. But that's not what I do at this point in my life. I have no idea, maybe someday down the line, but at this point it's all virtual, and I don't even do video because I find that my clients can actually be more vulnerable with me when it's just on the phone and they just get to be comfortable in their space, versus when they get on video, they almost go into performance mode of who does she want me to be or think that I should be. And, you know, they're really uncomfortable, especially around sex. It can be super vulnerable. So we just talk on the phone about it and we dive into it. It's private, it's confidential. And we go into more of the energetics behind all of it. Like, you can go to a sex educator and you can learn where your clitoris is and you can learn where your G-spot is. And I truly believe it's through like just self-pleasure, because we all have the same parts, but they're laid out differently. You're normal and you're perfect. I promise your vagina is perfect unless there's pain or there's a weird smell to it. Get that checked. But other than that, you're so normal. And even if they're in different parts or different things feel good, it's different for all of us. But I go into the energetics of it, especially like who have we been? Like I told you for my story, I had a lot of shame around sexuality. I didn't feel comfortable being in ownership of my sexuality and being in my body. I felt very disconnected. And I also couldn't receive pleasure in the bedroom because I hated my body and I felt like it was a sin and I felt like it was bad. And I had all of this old shit from my past that I had to move through in order to be able to show up here as who I am today. So we do a lot of past stuff. And then it's the energy and the polarities between the masculine and feminine, and getting out of boss mode and going into goddess mode, and like, what's that transition for you out of work into relationship. And then just like, what's the dynamic with you and your own self and your own connection with your body, but then what's your dynamic with your partner, and going into some relationship work there as well. Or if you're dating, starting to figure out like, who are you being in the dating world and how to play with that energy there.
Ooh, yeah. This is so good. And you also have an amazing podcast.
Soul in the Raw with my best friend Shannon Moon, who I love. Happy birthday, Shannon. We love you.
Oh, it's her birthday.
Yeah.
Yay. Yeah. And Shannon, we did some awesome podcast episodes a couple weeks ago. So you guys should go listen to those too, because these two ladies are freaking on point.
We have fun. Yeah. Jen will be on our podcast soon. Every Monday we have a guest, and then every Friday we have cocktail conversations where we drink and then bitch about random shit.
I love it. I love it so much. So before we hop off, I want to hear from you. Is there any last like powerful words of wisdoms that you want to leave our audience with?
A powerful last word.
Just like a nice little button on what we talked about.
I would say if you're here watching this or listening to this, you're feeling called to explore this area. Mm-hmm. There's always room for growth and expansion. You don't have to be broken or have something wrong in order to seek support. I hear a lot of people that are like, well, things are fine in my relationship. That's awesome. Okay, well, how can they be exceptional? How can we expand on what's great there? And also, no one is broken and no one has anything quote unquote wrong with them. And your body is beautiful and your sexuality is perfect. And whatever it is to you, it's exactly what it needs to be. So I feel the pressure of even other sex coaches out there who are wonderful, but I felt the pressure of, well, if only I looked like her, or if I could move that way, or if I had her confidence, or if I had her education, or if I had this, then I would feel that way. And I realized that my sexuality and my body is my own, and my relationship with it and my journey with it is just that. It's personal and it's my own, and we're all perfect and we're all whole and we're all complete. And why not see what else is available to you by getting in touch with your magnetism and getting in touch with your pleasure and getting in touch with your body? Like, what does that open up for you, not only as a woman and as a human being, but in your relationship and in your business?
Wow. Boom. Mic drop.
I'm not going to drop it because it was expensive.
Don't drop the actual mic. You guys go and connect with Olivia. She's incredible. She has so many resources out there for you to go even deeper into learning about this and exploring this for yourself. She is here to support you along the way of this kind of new journey. I know this is a little bit different than what we usually talk about on the podcast, but I really wanted to bring her on because I'm always wanting to look at how to show up as the best possible version of you as a business owner, as a leader, as a coach, from any possible avenues that are actually going to help you get to that next level. So I'm so grateful that you were here sharing your brilliance. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. It was truly an honor.
Oh, guys, we'll talk to you soon. Bye. Bye.